Welcome to Better Daily Life, where we are moving forward 1% better every single day. Download the app and supercharge your journey at betterdaily.life. Now it's time to ditch facts and get facts with your host and my dad, Alex Van Houten.
What is up, Betterment family? This is Alex Van Houten in Better Daily Live. Happy Friday. It is Flex Friday. And on Flex Friday, we go through something to help you on your 1% better journey from an exercise perspective. And we are just finishing up our educational series on the phases of training. If you've missed those, I'm going to quickly get you up to speed, and then we're going to talk about our phase of training today, the last phase, the athleticism phase, the cherry on top, the going beast mode in a good training program. So if you've missed out on the past few Flex Fridays, what we've been talking through is the phases of training. And the phases of training are really a way of conceptualizing and understanding how our body progresses through training adaptations. Good morning, Joel. Good to see you this morning. Now, that's a lot of complicated speak. What that means is you can use exercise like a sledgehammer. You can just beat yourself up. I'm going to do 500 sit-ups, and I'm going to do 300 jumping jacks, and I'm going to run until I burn 500 calories. You could do that. You could. And there might be a reason to do that now and then. But that is just exercise. Or you can use exercise like a scalpel, like a surgical tool. That's very precise, right? Instead of beating yourself up, you can say, okay, I want to change this. I want to adapt in this way. And so I'm going to apply exercise as an intelligent stressor that creates that adaptation. I'll give you an example. So if I do 20 push-ups with my body weight, that changes my chest muscles in a different way than doing 10 bench presses with the heaviest weight I can do 10 bench presses with. One is an endurance adaptation. That's 20 push-ups with my body weight. And the other is a strength adaptation. That's 10 bench presses with the heaviest weight I can bench press. An endurance adaptation makes me better at burning fat as a fuel source. Makes my pectoral muscles more endurable. Teaches me how to breathe better, strengthens my core, right? That's an endurance adaptation. A strength adaptation makes me better at burning carbohydrates as a fuel source. It might actually grow the muscle so that the muscle stands out a little bit more. It might also increase the strength potential of the muscle. You're not going to get a lot stronger doing 20 push-ups with your body weight, unless, of course, you can't do 20 push-ups with your body weight, and so you have to get strong enough to do that. Fair enough. But once you can do 20 push-ups with your body weight, your chest isn't going to get much stronger by doing more push-ups. It'll get stronger by dealing with heavier weight for fewer repetitions. So when I talk about training today and I talk about the athleticism phase, I want you to understand that when we say training means using exercise to accomplish a specific adaptive goal, a specific change in the physical body. And on Flex Friday, I'll go through movements. And right now we're on this educational series, so you understand how training fits together. So if Coach Alex puts out a muscle growth workout for my chest, I don't know why I'm stuck on the chest, but here we are. But if Coach Alex puts a muscle growth workout out for my chest, or if he puts out a foundations workout for my chest, I will understand the difference between the two. And I understand that there are reasons to do a foundations workout for my chest, and that there are reasons to do a muscle growth workout for my chest, and they're not the same thing. It's not all chest workouts are created equal. They're not. There's different reasons to do different phases of training. So anyway, so we've been through the phases of training. The very first phase of training was called foundations. And in foundations, we're overcoming injuries, we're rehabilitating problematic joints, we're establishing a good relationship between different muscles in the body. A good example might be, let's say you have really bad knees, quote unquote. And at the end of the day, what that really means is your calves are kind of weak and your tendons are kind of weak. And so in the foundations phase of training, you would do some focus to grow the capacity of your calves, to improve the flexibility of your hamstrings, to get good at moving slowly through a full range of motion so your muscles can stretch and contract in a healthy way that's not going to hurt your knees, right? And after you do that in the foundations phase for a while, what happens is it opens up some avenues for you. Maybe now you can jog where you couldn't before, or maybe jog longer. Maybe there's some exercises now you can do without hurting your knees that before would have been a problem. And so now you can start building on that foundation. That's why it's called the foundation phase of training. And then the next phase of training is called the endurance phase of training. If foundations is kind of like building the house on the rock, it's the slab of concrete. The endurance phase is kind of the framing of the house. You know, you're putting up the walls and whatnot. And the endurance phase is about burning fat better as a fuel source, that we're conditioning our type 1 muscle fibers. We're doing lightweight with lots of repetitions. We're still doing a good job with our form, but we're also changing our cardiovascular system to be able to stand up to the work. So that's the endurance phase of training. And then the next phase of training, the phase of training we talked about last week, my favorite phase of training, is the hypertrophy phase. Hypertrophy, the muscle growth phase, the phase of training where you lift heavier weights for between 6 and 12 repetitions, and you really focus on using the right muscle groups and really taxing those muscles. And we're working more of the type 2 muscle fibers in conjunction with the type 1s that we built on, right? We're getting stronger. We're seeing changes in our physique. We're getting better at metabolizing carbohydrates so they don't stick on our love handles, that sort of thing. That's the hypertrophy phase of training. And if we're building a house and foundations is the slab and endurance is the walls, then hypertrophy is kind of the roof in my mind. Like, now it looks like a house. Woohoo! and when I train clients and they've never been through training at all, after about 4 to 5 months of training, they've made it all the way through the hypertrophy phase. Now they're starting to look trained. They're moving away from pain and dysfunction. They're more endurable. They're burning fat better as a fuel source. And now they're starting to see some muscle growth. This is where, like, when I work with guys, they're like, man, I see a difference. Shout out to Scott Hammonds. Shout out to Scott Hammonds, who's looking at himself sideways in the mirror and going like, hey man, look, like I'm filling out this shirt in a different way. Sweet. So that's the hypertrophy phase. So today we're going to talk about the athleticism phase. The athleticism phase of training is a powerful phase of training. This is the cherry on top. You can think of it as going beast mode. When we do the athleticism phase of training, we've done the previous phases of training. You have to be trained in order to appreciate the athleticism phase without injury. So in this phase of training, some things we're going to be shooting for is optimizing our metabolism. This is the phase of training where you aren't going to burn any more than you're ever burning right now as far as the food that you're eating. We're also going to be introducing some peak performance metrics. You might actually see your 1 rep max or 3 rep max strength gains here, right? How heavy can you squat? How heavy can you bench press? Or you might see how fast you can run 100 meters or even a 1 mile. I love doing a 1 mile test with some of my clients who maybe sprinting's not in the cards, but improving that mile time is there. So we see that peak performance in the athleticism phase. We're also making those final tweaks and switches to our body composition. You will look like your most athletic self in this phase of training. Not to say that you'll never see any more improvement than right now, but when you look in the mirror, you will see an athletic version of you. And so you'll see that happen in this phase of training. The other thing we're doing in this phase of training is we're training primarily type 2 muscle fibers. So we're improving explosiveness, we're improving strength, we're improving agility, we're improving speed. And last but not least, if there's a sport or an event that you're preparing for, this is often the phase of training that you'll peak in. So if for instance, I have an event coming up in about 8 weeks, I am starting to move into the athleticism phase of training in preparation for the event so that I'm at my peak performance without injury. Some things to think about in the athleticism phase. First, when you're going beast mode, you gotta feed the beast. There are phases of training like the endurance phase or the foundations phase where it makes sense to get a really good handle on your nutrition and to promote healthy fat burn in the body. In the athleticism phase of training, we need to make sure you're well fed. And the reason for that is because when you are athletically training, if you are not well fed, you are much more prone to injury and under recovery. You don't want to go hard, explosively, high strength, high agility. You don't want to do those things. You don't want to do sports specific training when you're underfed. If you're underfed and your glycogen stores are low, the likelihood that you might hurt a ligament or tendon or tear a muscle goes much, much higher. So the athleticism phase of training requires that you feed the beast. Now, there are more intelligent ways to do that than others, but that's a conversation for a different day. The other thing you need to know is the athleticism phase is about pushing your limits. You will get uncomfortable in the athleticism phase of training. Personally, I enjoy the athleticism phase of training so much that the uncomfortability is kind of fun, whereas in the endurance phase for me, it's really uncomfortable and it's not that fun. Personally, that's what I feel. So the athleticism phase of training, I think, is more fun, and so sometimes it doesn't feel like work. A good example might be in the endurance phase of training, you might run hills to improve your cardiometabolic endurance. And that's hard, and it's not a lot of fun, and it kind of hurts, right? But in the athleticism phase, you might end up doing wind sprints while playing ultimate frisbee, and because you're playing so hard, you don't realize how hard you're working, and that is a hallmark of the athleticism phase of training. Another note is that rest periods in the athleticism phase are extremely important. Now, in the previous phases, I talked about acute variables, and acute variables are like how many sets you do, how many reps you do, how much weight you do, how much rest you have in between. In the athleticism phase, all of that varies depending on your goal. If you're lifting really heavy weight for 3 repetitions in order to improve your strength, you need 3 to 5 minutes of rest. But if you're going through a circuit where you have 7 exercises back to back and you're really just trying to train your threshold, then you don't get any rest. You just go until you collapse on the floor. So the acute variables in the athleticism phase vary significantly. And for that reason, the primary concern in the athleticism phase is recovery. You need to be getting enough sleep. And if you had a bad night of sleep, you need to question whether or not your workout is intelligent today, or maybe if you need to back off a bit, because we are pushing the limits, and at the limits, that's where injuries can happen most prevalently. You also need to make sure you're well recovered. In hypertrophy, you could do like 5 really hardcore workouts a week. In athleticism, I don't know about your body, and I find this out for my clients, but my body personally can only handle about 2 to 3 really hardcore athleticism workouts each week without injury. And last but not least, there are stressors in our life that can make our workouts even more stressful than they need to be. So let's say you're traveling or something crazy happened at work today. These are the days where you want to be at your best for your workouts. And so if something crazy happens, you might want to postpone your workout until you can be a little more recovered, a little more focused, a little less stressed in order to give it your best shot. That doesn't mean you don't work out today. It just means that you do something a little lighter than the hardcore workout that was originally planned. In the athleticism phase, there are some really intense and fun things that you can do in a workout to turn up the dial. For instance, the CrossFit community really likes the structure of the AMRAP and the EMOM. And AMRAP is as many reps as possible. That means you create a circuit, let's say the standard 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 squats for 20 minutes, as many reps as possible, right? So that would be an AMRAP. That means you go through that circuit continually over 20 minutes, and your job is to just do it as hard and as fast as you can. And the number of reps that you got at the end of your workout, that's your score, and you're trying to beat that every time, right? So that's called an AMRAP. That's a fun workout structure during the athleticism phase. Another structure is called the EMOM, every minute on the minute, right? So that's you can set a timer for 10 minutes, and you can say, I'm going to do 6 squats at my 10 rep max for 10 minutes EMOM, every minute on the minute. And so that means you're going to put the bar on your back, you're going to do 6, and you're going to rest till the minute's up, and then you're going to hit it again, and then you're going to rest till the minute's up. It doesn't sound like a lot. It's actually pretty hard and a very powerful way to train. And you can do other crazy stuff like a progressive EMOM, which means you start with 1 rep, and then you wait till the minute's up, and then you do 2 reps, and then you wait till the minute's up, and then you do 3 reps, and then you wait till the minute's up, and you keep going until you can't complete the reps in the given minute. That's a progressive EMOM. So all that to say, the athleticism phase is the cherry on top in training. This is the peak place in training where you can really push the envelopes of all of the previous limitations you've encountered in the past. You have to be in a great place to do this. I don't recommend doing this if you're a beginner, and I don't recommend doing it if you're at a particularly stressful or low bandwidth place in life, certainly not if you're recovering from an injury. But that said, the athleticism phase of training can be a lot of fun and can teach you a lot about yourself. So, I hope that you have enjoyed this educational trek through the phases of training. I hope you enjoy going beast mode in the athleticism phase, and I'm really looking forward to hearing how you use your exercise as a scalpel rather than a sledgehammer. Guys, this has been Alex Van Houten in Better Daily Live. Until next time, it's just 1%. You get this.
Thank you for joining us for your 1% better. Be you, just better, in mind, body, and spirit. Go to betterdaily.life, download our app, and check out our 5-star coaching resources. We all have a cross to carry. It's lighter when we do it together. Go to betterdaily.life today.